Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are continuing our coverage of the Disney Plus series Loki, Season 2, Episode 3, 1893, or should I say, Hornyville for the MCU.
Jeez.
Because, I mean, we'll get into it, but I was just like, what is happening here? But nonetheless, let's get to the panel. The super producers in the house, Jake Christie. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to talk about this. Surprised that I wasn't the one who called the episode Hornyville, but things are in flux.
Yes, and we do have a returning guest, friend of the show. She is a pop culture journalist. I got that right. Leah Marilla Thomas. Leah, welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Hello, doing good. I brought the culprit with me. I brought my Miss Minutes,
Oh
Ah, yeah.
wow.
who I purchased well before I knew any of this was going down, obviously.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, we will get to Miss Minutes shortly. But Leah, as customary, when we bring somebody on to the show, we who hasn't been on previously, we ask them what's been happening, what has been their thoughts on the scope of what this show has been so far. So, 2 episodes before this one, how have you received the show so far?
It's hmm. It's interesting with the show. I was saying this earlier. What I like a lot, and what I don't like, I dislike a lot. So I don't really know where I land. This season's delightful to see all of these characters again in this world again, but it's been very rushed. It's been very like frantic, runny. We got to get the doohickey for the duopity, and it's a lot.
That's funny. That's funny. As I think about what I've read from a lot of critics who have seen the first 4 episodes, it has been a mix of there are some strong performances, but there's also like I don't know about this plot device kind of running a little rampant. Is that as important as the character story? That has been kind of the general synopsis that I've gotten from people as far as like how they felt about the first 4, because screeners got 4 episodes, but we are on the third. And I will say this: I got a text from friend of the show, Dal Bean, yesterday as after he saw it, and it was pretty much like a half hour before I saw it, and he said, "Oh wow, this was one of the best hours or best episodes of Marvel TV I've seen." So I was like, "Huh?" I raised my eyebrow, and then I was like, "Okay." So I watched the episode, and I'm taking it in, and I think the thing that I take away from episode 3 is that I am incredibly entertained by this series, and I feel pretty good about what I'm watching. However, there are spots, and I think this kind of speaks to what you were saying, Leah, where I feel like, Jonathan Majors, the obvious time travel portion of the series overall, and missing out a little bit on the Loki Mobius thing. We only get a little bit of it at the beginning of the episode. And while I, comic book man, am very happy to get the Ravonna Kang stuff, which
Yes.
there is some interesting stuff there that you can dive into. Like I had stated previously, the Jonathan Major stuff kind of changes what that feels like for me personally. So we'll get into it further, but Jake, I'll go to you for this portion. What did you generally think of this episode?
I could not agree more with your assessment that it was very entertaining and there was a lot of stuff I really enjoyed. But I think also, Leah, you hit the nail on the head with the plot stuff where I I was disappointed in this episode to see that it feels like the show thinks the audience cares way more about the actual plot machinations of fixing the TVA than we actually do. Like,
Yeah.
I don't I don't mind if like people like make fun of MacGuffins all the time, but MacGuffins are fine because if they don't actually matter, they don't matter. And the thing that's annoying here is that it feels like they're insisting that this isn't a MacGuffin, that the stuff with the TVA actually does matter. And it's like, I don't care really. Like if either the loom gets fixed or it doesn't. But like the way that like the fact that that is taking away screen time from what I think the weakest element of this episode is the fact that like Sylvie just shows up halfway through and is like, I gotta kill this Kang variant, which, like, as I often say, I am willing to accept that is a thing her character will do. I would just like to see more of why that is the case. And the fact that we're spending a lot of time with this plot when we only have 6 episodes, which, once again, the solution here is just to have 8 or 9 episodes. But
it's the Game of Thrones later seasons thing.
yeah, that it's like the fact that that I have to choose between having good character development for Sylvie, a character I care about, or the plot moving forward. It's like, I don't like that I have to choose, and I really don't like that they chose plot.
Right. I think that's fair. Leah, what did you think about this episode, generally speaking?
This episode was probably my least favorite of the 3 so far.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because I thought Victor Timely... Well, no, wait, I don't need to feel guilty about this. I thought Victor Timely was so annoying.
Yes.
As a variant.
Yes. Say it.
Was he... Like, con artists are supposed to be, like, slick and in control. Was he dorky and bumbling, or was he in control the whole time? I could not tell.
I think that's a very accurate
I wrote this in the Discord originally. Our Discord, which you can get, of course, if you subscribe to our Patreon, $3 a month. So you forgot to do it up top, and
I said
I got you. But I typed out, but I want to save it for the pod. This is a classic actor putting too much mustard on the sandwich performance. Mm-hmm. He has 16 different things he's doing, and none of them make a coherent human being. Anyway, Leah, continue.
They are interesting individually, but put together, they're not. It feels like they're skipping beats, like you've just said. I would have liked a little bit more with Miss Minutes and Ravonna to know how they got there. But then, like, I like the Chicago World's Fair as a historical event. It was fun watching them run around. It's fun with their little outfits and their tandem bicycle. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how Sylvie found them or knew they were there. I thought she was, like, just gonna chill at McDonald's and not worry about it. But once she's there, adds more.
In fact, at the end of episode 2, I thought that once Loki tells her that, hey, I saw you in the future, I thought she would go there to kind of see what the story is, as far as why was she at the TVA in the future, where what we see in episode 1. And I don't know if they'll ever get back to that part of it, but I think, to Jake's point, as far as her just showing up in the middle of the episode, and it's this weird situation with her character, as to, I thought after how season 1 ended, we would spend more time with her to kind of figure out what her head state is, what her mind state is, as far as, like, making this particular decision. And it just feels like we've kind of skipped past it to a degree, and we just see actions as opposed to what I feel like in episode 2, what we got with Mobius after X5 kind of, like, reads him for how he views his life outside of the timeline and stuff like that, and we actually got some thoughts as far as what Mobius feels and what Mobius thinks about his life outside the timeline. But with Sylvie, who should be at this point a central figure to the show, kind of feels reduced to this kind of power player that comes in for a few minutes. It reminds me, like, in wrestling, like, they'll send this big character out to, like, beat up people for like 2 minutes, and then they're gone, and that's it. And it's kind of like what happens here in this episode as well. So I feel like they've underserved and undercooked her stuff this season so far. I would like to see that change. I think the thing that I really do feel like I did like the most was, and I feel, Leah, you were accurate in your assessment in terms of Miss Minutes and Ravonna. Kind of want to see how much further can we go with that, and maybe we'll get some more as the end of the episode alluded to. But I guess if you want, could you tell me, like, in viewing how the start of this episode goes with Miss Minutes and Ravonna, they're having this back and forth as this is He Who Remains' plan to have the TVA book delivered to a variant of his, and the way that this episode kind of evolves with those two. What did you think of that?
It's it's weird, right? So they're on a mission that I guess He Who Remains gave Miss Minutes before. And then I don't know. I don't like the jealousy at all, and it really just seems to it goes from 0 to 100 so
Yeah.
fast.
Very Fatal Attraction. Like, what happened?
But no, at least in Fatal Attraction they have sex first. Like this is just
Oh,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
obviously there's AI
It's
situation
not a
going
trope
on.
that
So.
I love. It's not a like, why is the woman crazy? Because she's a stalker with a crush. But it's interesting that she wants a body.
Yes.
I wish it hadn't gone that hadn't escalated so quickly. That would have been interesting to
Yes.
explore like over time. I'm
Yeah.
not against that. But it really felt like it came out of nowhere. And then it was over so quickly because she just
Mhm.
got yeeted back to the
Mhm. Into the
palace.
tempad or whatever.
The
Yeah.
Tempad, yeah.
Yeah, there's a manipulation that's definitely going on with Miss Minutes, that she's trying to, not only with Victor, but she also tries to impart on Ravonna even at the end of the episode. But go ahead, Leah.
Also, is the implication that Victor is he who remains? Because
I'm glad
someone
you
else calls
asked
him a
that.
he who remains variant, which means they're both Kang variants. That was a little
I
messy
think
to me.
he's a variant, but before we move on to AC theorizing about that, which I know you want to, I will say I think Leah, I 100% agree with you, because I'm always a big fan of anytime like you have a thing that's not a human to have desire to be human. I think that is a
Mhm.
very interesting storyline always. And I think that I'm even okay with Miss Minutes if we establish that she did develop human feelings for He Who Remains. Is the only man who she really ever knew, like in any meaningful way. I'm willing to accept that. But I think that of those two feelings, the feeling that I find much more interesting and believable of a thing that she actually would go through these lengths to pursue is the wanting a corporeal body. Like that is the thing that feels much more rich and real, as whereas like the love thing that feels like secondary. And once again, I would be willing to believe like this, if you pitch me the storyline of an AI is trying to like take revenge on the variant of the man who made her because she was never given a real body. I'm like, yeah, that's a very interesting, heady concept. But to reduce it to, but also she really loved him and she wanted a body so they could, I don't know, cuddle with each other. Like that's just less interesting to me, and it feels like it's a kind of a shortcut to. It's trying to fit what is not a conventional storyline into a conventional storyline box to make it easier for us to digest.
I think the funny part. I think the funny part about that is it's completely unnecessary, because I think if you put in the story element of what you're saying, Jake, or if you decide to put in just the idea of her wanting control, because at the end of the episode, she goes to Ravonna, "Hey, I know the secret. I know the secrets of everything that He Who Remains has, and all this other stuff." I Just for the purpose of trying to control the situation, as opposed to I'm mad, so this is how I get even. It's just like that's how
Yeah.
it came off to me, even if it's not. So when it's presented that way, it's kind of difficult to digest it in a way that makes you feel good about what you saw. But Leah, continue.
Also, he's her creator, so that's was the implication too. So that's a little bizarre.
And once again, as I always say, whenever there's a thing like that's a bit messy, my thought always is either lean into how weird that is or don't do it at all. And I knowing it's Marvel and in Disney, I don't think they're gonna lean into it, so don't do it at all. Like we can get David Cronenberg to make that movie. We can talk about it then, but like let's not do that here.
Yeah, I'm all
Yeah.
for the show being more horny, but this is not like this.
It was
No,
so
yeah.
unexpected. I was like,
I
"What?"
mean, also the thing too is, Leanne, to reference one of your tweets again, which I know I did before the show. I do appreciate that every episode you've been chronicling which of Mobius and Loki's interact, what they've actually been.
They're on a date. They should just be little space-time throuple with Sylvie. Let's all be happy. Who
See,
cares?
I wasn't with you until you posted the pie scene where I'm like, oh no, that's a date. That's a date.
Their feet are touching.
The pie scene, they're having this really like deep emotional conversation, which I feel like they've had like 3 or 4 of those already in the
Mm-hmm.
series.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of feels like we're there even though we're not. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and then of course you add Sylvie. You know, I see, I'm picking up what you're putting down, Leah.
Yeah,
I definitely see you there.
It
But
also makes the
yeah.
dating yourself a little less weird if there's a
Mm-hmm.
third. Never thought I'd say that.
Ah.
What a crazy series of words just came out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would love to see. I mean, I like it's kind of like this really unspoken, like real legitimate bond between Loki and Mobius that I feel like it does feel like it does go beyond friendship.
No, yeah,
There's
I don't actually think that I don't think they should pursue a romantic storyline necessarily, but I do think it
yeah.
is funny how, once again, Leah, your tweet, just the way that all the screenshots you use are framed, it's like each one of them, it's like, oh yeah, they're both like dressed to the nines, they're like out on the town. But I think that going back to what you were talking about earlier, AC, that I think that we're getting a lot of like snippets of this, but because they have to spring into action mode in like 20 seconds after all of these things, other than the pie scene, we're not getting the long, drawn out character stuff that we got so
Yeah.
much in the first season. Like, I thought that the first 3 episodes of the first season were so incredible and
Yeah.
I don't need to see that many crazy chases. Like, this is not what I'm looking for in this show necessarily.
I mean, put into perspective episode 3 of the first season, where it's Loki and Sylvie having a bunch of conversations about not only themselves but how they view themselves overall, just
Mm-hmm.
as people. And I mean, they're sitting on a rock and having a conversation. Like all these things are happening. They're sitting in the train car and all that stuff. And it's not to say that this episode was bad, because I don't
No.
feel like it's not bad, but you can kind of see where, and this is something that I mean I can reiterate it 1,000 times about Marvel television, is that these 6 episodes uh limit you so much into what you can do that you're forced to have these stops and starts where you get into a situation where you want to really advance the plot, and after 2 very heavily focused Loki Mobius episodes, now you take this bigger storyline, the Ravonna and Kang of it all, and it kind of like takes the entire stage of
Mm-hmm.
what episode 3 is. Not to say that it's a bad thing, because I do think one of the issues that many people have complained about as far as the MCU is concerned as of late is this multiverse storyline. How come we don't have what we feel like is enough of Kang to this point? And how do we get that story? And I feel like they took steps here to get there, but I think in doing so, it still kind of like cuts out some of the things that you would like to see otherwise. I saw a tweet today where somebody was talking about like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if the TVA like had an episode where they went into space, or like Loki and Mobius went into space and dealt with like aliens and stuff like that. And I said that would be cool if you had 10 episodes to do it, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't really got time for that. So I think that's the limitations of television making. We talked about that last week, so I don't want to belabor
I
the
mean,
point too
I've
much.
talked about it. What is it? What's the year? 2023. I've been talking about it since we
Well,
started the
since
show.
we've Disney, since
Since
Disney
Marvel started
Plus.
making television.
Right. So
Yeah.
like the same point applies to where, even with something as quality as Loki is, it still has its limitations. So that part will always be a sticking point when we watch these episodes. But I did want to say about about your point earlier, Lee, about the Victor Timely and He Who Remains variant thing. It felt like weird because they allude to it at points in the episode that, oh, I know the man that you can become. You can become him. And I'm like, is he gonna become He Who Remains at the end? I wasn't
I don't
sure.
think so. I think that she is talking to him as if, like, because he's a variant, he has the capability of becoming as great as him. I don't think that we're supposed to believe that he is. Because that's not the way that time travel works in the Marvel universe.
Right.
It's not. It doesn't work that way necessarily.
Well, it does kind of work that way within the TVA.
Yes, but I think we're supposed to believe that.
Um,
I'm trying to think. I don't know. I think that the fact that it's confusing leads me to believe that he can't be the same. Because if he was supposed to be the same, I think they'd make that pretty clear. That I don't know.
yeah.
Because this is the thing where if you want to play this out, play this part of it out, and Victor Timely does all of the things that the plan is supposed to state, goes to the TVA, fixes the temporal loom, all these things that He Who Remains wants at this point to fix things and get to the end of time. Like, what ends up happening? Does Victor Timely, who seems like this very, I guess, you could say, quote unquote, like sympathetic figure to a degree, even though he's really a scammer. That
I mean, I'll say this, he is supposed to be a sympathetic figure, which I think is why Jonathan Majors is putting too much mustard on the sandwich, because he's trying really hard to make you not think about He Who Remains. But yeah, he's supposed to be a sympathetic figure because, he's trying to make it work, and I think I feel sympathetic for him because he was basically given the instructions on how to build a Ferrari, but in 1467. Like, you feel bad for him for that.
I
yes.
don't feel bad for the people he's scamming.
Well,
No,
that's
they don't
for
seem
sure.
like good people. Yeah.
No, they're
I don't care
definitely
about them.
not good people. Also, I will say, in terms of just inaccuracies, there ain't no way in 1893 that a white dude's gonna give a black dude $1,000. This is what would happen. They would just take the machine, and unfortunately, some very unfortunate and terrible things would happen to Victor Timely as opposed to what we got here.
Yeah.
You think so? I'll leave it. I'll leave it at that. But
So I do love that when they get there,
yeah.
Mobius just offhandedly is like, "The Chicago World's Fair, Thomas Edison, H. Holmes." Like, those are
The two
not related
greats.
things. Those are not.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about let's talk about the Timely Ravona stuff, because as it's funny enough, when we did the episode 1 recap, we talked a lot about what this would look like, and we made a lot of jokes about it too. But it's
Well,
kind of
our episode 1 recap was completely normally. See, I don't know what you're talking about.
it's kind of funny that the episode 1 recap, I mean, when you consider the end of the episode where we get the whole, well, you're gonna be mad about this thing that he did, sounds kind of what we talked about in the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
episode. So I'm interested, Jake, to get your perspective on it as
Yeah.
we kind of see Ravona and this Kang variant
Mhm.
kind of do the little dance, a little flirty here, but he kind of betrays her. So
Yeah.
that's
So
interesting.
while I was a bit eye-rolly at Majors' performance, I thought that Gugu did a lot of great work to, like, she did enough for me to be more or less sold on them having chemistry, despite the fact that I don't think that Majors was giving much. And I think that, like, he is charming. His character is charming in his way of being the
Yeah.
bumbling, absent-minded professor type. Like, that is a recognizable type of charming. I don't know if he needed to. I really think that the starter was that was the one extra ingredient he didn't need. I don't think he needed it, and I'm not saying
Well,
that
he
because
didn't even. But the wild part is, not to cut you, he didn't even break it out immediately while he was talking at
yeah,
the front of the fair, and it's after the fact that he breaks it out, which is
yeah,
odd.
that was the thing that was a bit too much. But I think that there's a way that clearly the thing that Gugu plays really well is that, like, on the one hand, Ravonna obviously is in some way attracted to this version of Kang, but there's also this, she admires him so much because she admired He Who Remains so much, and, like, and so, like, there's an interesting dynamic that, like, the thing that he sees her as, a pretty woman who's interested in him, whereas she sees so much more, which I think is what makes the dynamic interesting. The betrayal I found to be, I didn't need it to be as on the nose as just the word partnership. Like, I kind of got it. That feels like the Marvel thinks I'm an idiot, which sure they do, but, like, I'm willing to believe that he doesn't want to, like, the fact that it was like a magic word as opposed to just the idea of a partnership was kind of like, okay, yes, you said partnership. I wasn't surprised then when she got betrayed because I knew that he said that 20 minutes ago that he doesn't like the word partnership.
Right. And Leah, like, in terms of kind of what you you see with Ravonna and Victor Timely, and kind of that bond that starts at first, which then turns to Ravonna kind of going apeshit on him at the end of the episode. What did you see there? What did you find interesting?
I did, unlike Miss Minutes, it is about as much of a slow burn as successfully, I think, as you could get in that short amount of time. Like, I do like how she initially was kind of like, this is the guy, and then sort of started to see the appeal, and then she went on a nice full journey in the
Yeah,
episode.
and I think that back in it just kind of reminds me of the books and the way that Ravonna and Kang have kind of been portrayed, in the sense that, they obviously have this attraction to each other, but it can never really work out because there's always something in the way, in terms of, in this case, Timely wanting to go ahead with whatever plan to be this genius inventor to take over the TVA or whatnot, or in Ravonna's case, her kind of near borderline obsession now with free will, and wanting to find out what that is about. So to kind of see that actualization from the books to a degree was nice, because
Mhm.
this is kind of what, if we're going to forecast whatever Kang dynasty whenever we get there, if we want to forecast that, this is the central relationship. This is throughout all variants, all times, all versions of these folks, which can get confusing at times, but this is kind of what you want to focus on, and I think this was at least a decent first step in doing that. Jake, I wanted to ask you, because we've talked a little bit about Jonathan Majors' performance
Mhm.
here, but he had a lot of screen time in this episode. You and I
Yeah.
have discussed over the past few months that this return was gonna feel a little
Yeah.
uncomfortable and weird. How did this come off to you?
It was uncomfortable and weird for the first minute, and then unfortunately, I don't say this as like a point of pride. Like I just eventually just stopped thinking about it because I was because I'm generally of the opinion with art, with like people who commit transgressions, like, for example, like if a like director, like, I've never seen a Woody Allen movie in my life because by the time I was old enough to watch one, I already knew about stuff, and they would feel way too personal for me. Like they feel like way too personal for like I don't and so that's I've never made that affirmative decision. But with
Mhm.
actors, it's like there's so many people that work on a thing that like I'm not gonna not watch a movie because Kevin Spacey is in it because he's one of
Right.
100 people who made it. And so that being said, like because Jonathan Majors is playing a character that's someone else wrote and it was directed and there was a project he's in and it's not like about him. Like, and I know Leah was giving weird face when I said the Woody Allen thing. Like, Woody Allen made a movie about
Well, no,
how he dated a
I'm just
17-year-old.
surprised. I'm just surprised that I'm jealous in a way.
Yeah, I think it really is because like I didn't grow up watching a lot of movies with my family, and then I think I forget how old I was when the Dylan Farrow letter came out, and then I'm like, okay, and the thing I've always said is that when he dies, I'll watch all of them because then he won't see a cent. But but anyway, because it's among so much other things, like I was just kind of like I have to deal with it. I still want them to recast him, obviously, just because I don't want to have to think about this. I don't want to have this conversation on this podcast for the next 5.5 years, really. But yeah,
Mhm.
it didn't help the fact that I didn't think the performance was that good. Because the difference with He Who Remains is I thought he was incredible on the Loki season finale. Whereas like this, I'm just like, oh, you could get if throw in whatever replacement you want, I think he would do a little bit better. Because it just feels he's like not to make it, but it feels like he's trying so hard to seem harmless, which is like that. Now that I think about it, is like, oh, that just made me feel good.
And Leah, how did you receive the performance generally, besides what the stuff that you've said about it being a little bit too much so far?
I mean, yeah. Any discomfort that I felt just watching Jonathan Majors on screen was quickly replaced with being irked at how annoying Victor Timely was.
It's funny,
Um,
like, yeah,
we'll
it's
see. We'll
funny.
see how he meshes with. I don't know. I'm assuming there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in the rest of this series, as far as I know. Well, I think we'll probably see another variant, and then obviously whatever comes next, well, there's a whole lot of rigmarole to get through as far as that's concerned. But it'll be interesting to see how kind of like that story carries over, because now if it's funny, like Loki season 1 was 2 years ago, and it feels like so much time has passed to as to where, I mean, Kang Dynasty, I think about it, like it feels like 50 years from now. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't know when all of this stuff is gonna play out and come to
Mm-hmm.
fruition.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, let's talk about Miss Minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's get into the horniness, because
Mm-hmm.
Jake, I have to say,
Mm-hmm.
like, when I was watching this episode last night,
Mm-hmm.
I looked at my wife when as it was going on, and I said, "Yo, what's this lady doing? What
Mm-hmm.
what is she doing? She did the little blush thing when and then she went into the dress
Mm-hmm.
and everything. What did you think was happening there? Because I felt like it was
Yeah.
so bizarre.
I thought that they were just gonna hint at it with which once again, like, if it was just like a hinting thing, or like a, like there was the implication of that. Like, I'm willing to accept a lot of different things. As everyone knows, I was the first person to say like it's fine if Loki and Sylvie kiss. That was a position I staked out very early on in season 1. Um, but the fact that it goes from 0 to 100 so quickly is really the problem I have with it. Because, like, if we're going to accept that she is an AI that has a full range of human emotions, like, then you also have to accept that she could fall in love with someone. Like, that's the thing. I'm kind of fine with that. But the way it's one of those classic things you wonder with a fictional character, where it's like, how did you think this was gonna go? Like, what was their actual game plan for what was gonna happen here? I think that is the thing that's more confusing to me. Is like, I think that if she had a plan to get Victor Timely on her side and to like work with him, etc., that eventually was supposed to end with Victor Timely giving her a body that they could be together, fine. But like, that feels like a conversation you should have after like a lot longer together than just like 3 or 4 minutes. And so I'm just, it was like it's a fun idea, and like, anytime Marvel accidentally is transgressive, I'm happy. Like, and it's always accidentally, but I'm always happy if that happens. But it just was like, do it better. I just lay the groundwork. And this, once again, would have been a thing that you could have laid the groundwork for if we didn't need to only spend like 2 minutes with Ravonna and Miss Minutes at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Right. The escalation for me is kind of where like it kind of goes off the rails, where it you get a sense of it where she adds these little comments throughout the episode, but then it just really just goes like to a place where I don't know. I found myself laughing because it was kind of funny, because it's like I was like, they're really doing a lot here. But Leah, just generally, like, in terms of, because you don't see Marvel do stuff like this. It's a little odd.
No.
What did you feel about it?
No, they really don't. So, of course it's got to be an AI, not a real, I don't know. We just had She-Hulk. She was plenty horny.
Yeah.
Um I don't know. Like, on one hand, if she looked at Victor Timely and said that guy would love a robot girlfriend, I would, that's
Yeah,
probably
that, yeah.
correct. That's a fair assumption, a fair assessment of his vibe. Um, but yeah, we can't just have normal flirtation
No.
anymore. Ugh,
I mean,
so sad.
AC, I need to call up the Wall Street Journal again. I need to give him my piece.
It would
But
be nice, right?
AC, I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I'm not in that section of Twitter, has your section of Twitter been giving Tej hell, like saying that he might want to be with Miss Minutes because he falls for AI
Not,
women?
I haven't this today. I haven't seen it yet. I
Okay.
haven't seen any of that yet.
If you
So,
want
oh
to do
my
that, feel
god,
free to take that from me because I don't know
I
him.
mean,
But
you bringing me back to a time. Oh my god,
yeah.
those couple
Yeah.
days were funny
For
as hell,
context,
man.
Leah, a person who's in like AC circle generally, like this guy on Twitter,
Mhm.
Tej, he recommended like an IG account for a woman, and it turns out they're AI generated photos.
And he couldn't believe she
And then when people were posting some of the older photos, they're like so bad.
it was so obvious. Like, how do you not know?
And so I was wondering maybe he's seen that scene and it's like, this is exactly what I'm looking for.
Oh, you make me after this
Yeah.
want to go check
You
it
got
and
it. You
see
got it.
what's
Oh,
happening
but
there.
it's just a thought I had.
No, man. So okay, so where are we in this series? How are we feeling? How are we feeling about it now, halfway through? Leah, you kind of gave me the hand, like I don't know. I'm a little like up in the air. How do you
I'm
feel?
open. I'm interested. I'm
Yeah.
listening.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I'm sitting
It all
nesting and
hinges on the
listening.
next song, kind of
got
thing.
Yeah, I got you. And Jake,
Yeah,
how you feeling
I
right
think
now?
this is a fulcrum point for it. Like, I think that there are ways for these last 3 episodes to go that I think are really great. I think that I hope that, and I imagine, I imagine that the final plot of the final episode or two is not going to be just about fixing the loom, because like that's not very character based. The thing as I said, I wish they would have moved on for that plot line an episode ago. But I'm wherever it goes, like whatever trouble is caused by Victor Timely being in the TVA, whatever trouble Ravonna and Miss Minutes cause, I'm excited to see those things happen. But I would like to see them happen sooner than later, because the thing that I think Loki season 1 was so good about is that like they didn't let plot lines fester just for the sake of waiting to the end. Like as we talked about, like the plot line of the first 2 episodes of Loki season 1 is to find Sylvie, and then the plot line, like the major plot changes every few episodes, and so
Yeah.
like what I really don't want to happen is I don't want Ravonna and Miss Minutes to kind of disappear into the last episode. And I'm afraid if Loki has been taking notes from Marvel's other TV shows, they might do that. And like I want it to keep moving. I want there to be a new problem every episode. And so depending on how the next episode goes, we'll know. But there's a lot of good stuff up in the air. I really hope they do more justice for Sylvie as this goes on. And I don't know. I'm also excited to see the thing that they kind of planted, the idea of Victor Timely also being excited to meet Ouroboros. So maybe that gives some credence to the thing you brought up last week about Obi possibly going evil.
Well, that's all that's been in the back of my mind a little bit. Obviously a little less so this week with not seeing him very much, but getting back to that next week should, hopefully will be interesting, and as they bring Victor Timely to the TVA to kind of to try and fix this temporal loom. As far as the series goes, for me, I feel pretty good in terms of like what I've seen. I think, and listen, it's Loki, so obviously, like you love Hiddleston and you love Owen Wilson and that dynamic and everything that's fostered so far, and also after Secret Invasion, like anything could have been,
Mm-hmm.
could have
Yeah.
gotten this to a decent place. So the fact that we're getting this, and at least at the at the minimum, they are entertaining me every week, and I'm interested in the performances and the
Mm-hmm.
characters to kind of see where this overall story goes. But thinking about it last night after watching it, I do feel like this show is not going to end with this season. I feel like they're going to do another season of this. It does feels pretty safe that they're in like a good pocket in terms of like how they want to tell stories with this.
Mm-hmm. And
That enough people will keep
yeah.
bringing themselves back to, enough people will be interested in watching, so I think there'll be
Yeah.
another season of
And
this.
Tom Hiddleston realizes he's probably aged out of being Bond. Um, I'm sorry. I didn't. That was more of a joke than to make you. But yeah, I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like as long as I feel like I get the answer to why Sylvie runs into Loki in
Mhm.
episode 1, why the Ravonna part of it, the Miss Minutes part of it now, get a little bit more backstory there.
Mhm.
And I do also hope that we revisit Mobius. And I think one thing that we didn't address in this episode was the conflict between Mobius and Ravonna. That really just kind of
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
we saw in the finale of season 1 that it was contentious between the
Mhm.
two of them,
Mhm.
and that continued. There's this real like conflict between the two of them. So actually, I'll stick with that for a second before I continue on like thoughts going forward. But there's Ravonna seems to like have a disdain for him and his whole the ideology and stuff like that. Leah, what did you make of their conversation that we saw?
Yeah, that is really interesting because he brings it up before they go
Mm-hmm.
to Chicago too. He's like, "Oh, it's gonna be awkward. It's the woman that tried to kill both of us. Oh boy." So yeah, he really feels that more than other people. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they were very close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like real good friends, and now it's like it's not like she hates him. Like she
Well,
really
I
can't
mean,
stand him.
as Facebook memes from people I went to high school with will tell you, the worst part about betrayal is it never comes from an enemy. So.
Oh wow. Now, do we? Oh boy, do we know whether or not her memory has been? Yeah, it must have been erased.
Yeah, it was
Right.
because she was the school
I
teacher, the school
that
principal.
might
Right. Right.
that might be the secret. That
Yeah.
might be the secret that Miss Minutes is
What
alluding
I
to at the end.
guessed, what AC was alluding to when we talked about episode 1, is that I know I said it, I think everyone else agreed that like that Kang has been basically erasing the memory of Ravonna in particular because he can't keep away from her, or because they're toxic for each
Mm.
other, one of the two. Which we both said is toxic behavior, but also he's toxic. But yeah, so she's definitely had her memory erased. I think the reason they have a conflict is because the betrayal thing is partially a joke, but it's also true that I think the reason it's contentious is because I think Ravonna is mad at Mobius for not seeing things because they're so close. She's mad that he doesn't see things the way she does. That like,
Right.
how could you not be on this crusade with me? And the fact that he's not, the fact that he sided with Loki, who is a bad variant, who's a trickster, over her, I think she finds as a deep betrayal. Now she'll say it's because they disagree ideologically, but obviously it's because of the betrayal. It's because she's mad at him for that. And so I wish they explored it more, and I'm willing to buy, especially that like that. I feel that Ravonna is mad, and I feel that Mobius is hurt. I just wish they would explore that more.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that yeah, I think the fact that you saw that again, I was like that actually stood out to me in the sense that oh, this is like a real like fight. Like I'm not happy with you. Which is funny because did she prune him? Like that's what I'm saying. Like if I'm Mobius, I would be a little bit more mad than what he seems, and he kind of seems like I'm trying to work this out. I'm trying to get us to a place where we could just get Victor Timely to the TVA and figure this thing out. But she's not having any of it. Yeah, the Ravonna character, if they explore her, Goo can
Thank you.
really can really show her chops because
Yeah,
I think she's awesome. I think she's been awesome
yeah,
every time that I've seen her on
uh-huh.
screen so far in this series.
Yeah. I mean, she's. I think just. I think that she's really good at playing. And at the end of this episode, she fully goes all out, which I think is rewarding. That like through the end of last season and the beginning of this episode, she is clearly trying to be the very put together, like I'm on top of everything, but she's clearly not. And then she finally, at the end of the episode, goes. It was reminiscent of the clip in third season of Community in the documentary episode where Annie's like has the hair tied back with her pencils, like, but the dean would be crazy, like that. She's fully kind of lost it, and I think that it is. I really like the way that her character has evolved because, like I said, she is in the first season. She's the ultimate voice of authority. You see her first in that gigantic judge's chair, and then she's the one that Mobius goes to for guidance. And I think that like I think so much of her energy is, I think she's focused on what she's focused on because if she spends any time to stop and reflect, she'll realize that she has put all of this type of energy into something she doesn't understand or really believe in. And I like that because that's something I can relate to. And I think is a
Yeah.
thing that is really well done. And I think like that's the more interesting thing. I think that if you look at what these characters actually are being motivated by as opposed to what they say they're being motivated by, because characters lie all the fucking time. And I think she's completely full of shit if she says that it's about like this grand crusade about free will. It's like, no, she's trying to like give herself purpose because she realized the thing she had purpose for before was bullshit.
Yeah, and I think I mean, we talked about it last week, like the TVA and the place that you can take it as far as like religion is concerned. It's almost like these characters to a degree, kind of like we gotta save the TVA, gotta save the TVA. Which you know, Jake, you make a fair argument earlier where it's like I don't really care about saving the TVA. That's not the most important thing here. It's kind of like Loki Sylvie. Like, what's that gonna be? Loki Mobius, what's that gonna be? Ravonna and Kang, what's that gonna be? The TVA seems like just this again, this plot MacGuffin that while yeah, sure, it's a thing, but I care more about the people than the thing. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where I land on it. We'll see what happens with this series. We're halfway through episode 4. I have heard that is it that they leave it a little bit on a cliffhanger because that was the last one that was sent to people who screened
I
the
was
show.
told a certain person whose name rhymes with Bunter Medici had tweeted that it's really good.
Next week's guest, by the way.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, it should be interesting to see. Leah, any final thoughts that you want to impart on if you have any Loki thoughts or general MCU thoughts? Obviously, we spent some time last week talking about the Marvel TV and what happened with Daredevil and everything. So if you want to add anything, I'd be interested.
I saw Jeff Loeb at New York Comic Con just sitting in Artist Alley, completely unbothered, and I thought how lovely it must be to be him right now.
I know.
I should Google this. But does anyone ask why he spells Jeff like that? Like that's the thing I care most about.
Right? That's so true.
Because I'm a big proponent of, and this is one of my hottest takes, is I think that there should only be one way to spell every name, and like there's just because it's just you should never have to say my name's Jeff. Imagine how much of an asshat you must feel like it's Jeff, Jeph.
Is it? I wonder if it's short for.
Yeah, let me find this. I'm gonna look this up.
Biblical,
Jeff
like
Loeb.
Jephiah.
Oh my god, it's short for Joseph. Fuck that.
No.
No.
What? Him and Joss Whedon are doing this.
Joss is the word. Yeah, you couldn't come to my Josh. Okay. Ugh. Some people, man.
Oh boy.
Don't get me started about Topher Grace, okay? But
Topher sounds like Gopher.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's not as bad, but I had to think of a third. The rule 3s.
Yeah.
Continue.
Boy, oh boy, am I excited for the Marvels. You're not going to be able to tell me otherwise.
Hey, we're excited. Yeah, I'm excited for it. People, the dumbest discourse is people are like, because the runtime is short, that means it's bad. Maybe it does, but it doesn't.
No, it's short comedy.
Exactly.
Comedies are short.
That's so
exactly.
Such a dumb line of thinking with that.
Well, I mean, people. I don't know if you know this, but people. I don't want to disparage your fans, but people who like this stuff a lot of times are dumb. Like it's kind of the. Maybe honestly, I'm probably feeling this way. I'm feeling more hostile towards MCU fans than usual because I just saw Killers of the Flower Moon today, which is incredible. And then I saw a clip where someone's like, "Seeing Martin Scorsese movies is like going to the DMV. You have to do it, but it's boring." I'm like, Martin Scorsese movies are boring. They're boring. Do you truly
have to do anything? You don't have to do it.
I truly like. I don't understand how these people set up podcast mics when they can get distracted by keys being jangled.
Wait, this was a Marvel person?
No, it was like a nerd. I saw it was a clip I saw on Twitter where I think actually your roommate put it in my feed. That it was like a comic type thing where there's a bunch of Funko Pops in the background.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that this person, it's wild to compare a movie to the DMV. And now I do not think this about the MCU. I'm going to make that very clear.
Yes.
There are people out there that think that you have to watch every single thing to understand. That would be like going to the DMV.
You're 100% right.
It's not
anything
correct.
is like the DMV, it's watching Marvel. If anything is.
It's watching a 20-plus film and now so many television show franchise.
But yeah, I apologize. I usually
by Night in Color. I'm not going to understand the Marvels.
Yeah, I usually, as you know, AC, I keep my contempt for Marvel fans at bay. It's always there. I always have it. But today because I saw it like an hour after I saw Killers of the Flower Moon, which is a fucking masterpiece. It just is so good.
I'm going tomorrow. I'm very excited.
And then to see that, but no, yeah, it's where were we about? Honestly, I still have Jeff Loeb's Wikipedia page.
Talk about Jeff Loeb. We're talking about television. I'm excited for the Marvels.
Yes, the Marvels.
Well, no. I mean, listen. As far as the Marvels is concerned, I know I'm excited to see it. I'm like I've been talking about on this show. I want to see Carol Danvers. I want to see what that character is. Give me more of her. I want to understand her. Yeah. And then you add in the elements of Monica and Kamala, then like Oh, this should be a fun time.
Leah, I don't know about you, but I have been sold on the Marvels until I see bad reviews. From the moment I heard Nia DaCosta on the Blank Check episode for Trance, in which she ranted about the girls' moment in Avengers.
Yeah.
Oh, she gets it. She
It
gets it.
sounds like she gets it. And sounds like, I mean, the way that I've read in her interviews talking about like, hey, we're actually gonna do stuff with the characters in terms of like the Carol stuff, which I think is important. I don't know anything about her. I would
Also,
like to know some more.
I do recommend people listen to that Blank Check
Mm.
episode and then read her interviews, because there were a
Yes.
couple of quotes that got pulled out of context on Twitter. I'm
Yes,
sure
yeah.
that's shocking
The Kevin
information.
Feige
Mhm.
stuff, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that people were like, "Oh, she's so down on it. She's so mean-spirited." No, 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 no. Very, very
Yeah.
dry, like,
And not to
funny
be
person.
not to put the white nightcap on, but it genuinely is incredibly noticeable how that always happens to women, that women are
Yeah,
never
yeah, yeah,
given the benefit of being
absolutely. Because
sarcastic.
everything we say is very, very, very serious because we're very angry all the time.
Like thinking about like other directors, like David Fincher says the meanest things about every person ever,
Mhm.
and it's like, oh, but he's just joking, which because he is just joking. But yeah, but Nia DaCosta can't joke about Kevin Feige being a hands-on producer. Anyway,
Yes, but actually, Leah, let me just ask you about the TV thing because I am curious about your thoughts on it. What? Because when you see that stuff come out, which honestly about Secret Invasion, like we could all figure that part out, watching that show, but just how it's permeated throughout the entire product. What I guess when you read that, what did you make of it?
The Kevin Feige thing?
Well, I mean, not just the Feige thing, but just generally how they view TV and how they view it as let's do it like movies,
I
which
mean, I'm thrilled that they finally stopped, that they're finally starting to consider, showrunners and show Bibles and full writers' rooms with longer seasons. Um, because it's not working. And it is interesting because the Netflix shows suffered from a Netflix problem where they
Mhm.
were 3 episodes too long.
yes,
And there was always that like lag in the last like 4 or 5 episodes.
there are always
Characters
two
get stuck in a
episodes.
building for like an episode or
There
something
are
Yeah.
like
always
that.
the two episodes where the characters were like mostly incapacitated.
Yep. And oh God, what was the interview that, no, it was the piece about them reworking television where they were like, in the new Daredevil show, he's not going to wear the suit until episode 4. All of the Netflix shows, they didn't wear the suit until episode 12. Like, that's normal. That's just how they've been making television. But yeah, I would much prefer to see Disney try to do something that's more like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's like longer and has season arcs. And maybe Loki can be that. Maybe they can
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something
keep
that
it going. And
of
She-Hulk would
course.
work well that way too.
Well,
Oh,
I feel like
good
that's
lips to God's ears.
that was so that actually was the surprising part to me because I thought She-Hulk was like it hit all of the right this is a TV show
Yeah.
vibe, and it felt that way from start to finish, and I enjoyed it. And even there was uh what you call it, director replacing this one and taking the reins and stuff like that, and then they got to bring Jessica Gal back at the end in post production, which is good on their part, but still, like, the fact that there's so much wrestling for control and all that other stuff, that stood out to me as like, oh no, this is not great, not great
Yeah.
in any type of the sense.
Yeah, I think that like I know Leah and I have discussed this before on Twitter once about knowing too much about TV growing up, but my TV fandom was forged in reading deadline pieces about Community, and so
Mm-hmm.
I have
Oh,
a lot of thoughts about executives taking things over and thinking they know better, and I think what Shield shows, it's like I said last week, like even though they did try to mess with it or whatever, I do think it's notable that that's the one that feels most like TV, and that's the one that like an executive was never running. Even when they took it away from Jessica Biel, they still gave it to a director. Like there's just something so gross
Mhm.
about the idea of an executive being a showrunner because that's like
a
it's
head
not.
writer.
It's yeah, exactly. So yeah, I would just repeat myself, which it's not like I don't do that all the time, but I'll stop.
Yeah. Well, nonetheless, we will see what happens with the TV series Loki as we continue on this journey. as we not only get towards the end of Loki, but we get closer to the Marvels, which should be a lot of fun to talk about and watch. So looking forward to doing that. Leah, as
Yes.
always, it has been a pleasure for you to join us on this episode. Where can we follow you? Where can we find your work?
I mean,
The 65 places that you...
yeah, right. You can follow me on Twitter and whatever Twitter alternative you prefer at Leah Marilla. I just finished recapping The Walking Dead: Daryl Dixon for Vulture.
I do just want to note quickly.
Yep.
AC, do you remember what Rod said about The Walking Dead? He said he's the only person who's still watching. He's wrong.
No, it's
We're
me.
still watching.
I'm still watching. I'm
God
behind on
bless
Fear
you.
the Walking Dead, so that's
God
the
bless
only
you.
one.
I'm not watching. I couldn't spoil it.
I tapped out season. It was 8. I think season 8. I tapped out. Yeah, I got as far as I could.
Yeah. I've taken breaks. I've taken breaks and then like binged and caught back up, but it keeps me employed. People always need someone to write about The Walking Dead, so I will be that person for you.
I mean, there's 65 different spin-offs, so
Yep.
I mean, shout out to them for keeping people employed for sure.
Yep.
But yes, continue to tell us everywhere that you write.
The Mary Sue, Polygon, Slate, Cosmopolitan. That's a good enough list for now. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Teen Vogue. What a
Nice.
thrill.
Nice.
I'm
Awesome.
everywhere and nowhere.
Awesome. Happy to have you back. Jay Christie, where can we find you, sir?
You can follow me on Twitter at the Jay Christie. Listen to my other podcast, Love at First Psych, where me and Andre are talking about the USA Network original series Psych. I just want to do a quick note. Oh wait, Ellie, are you a fan of the USA Network original series Psych?
No, I'm excited to hear the quick note.
Oh, that the boat that they take to Wisconsin is called the SS Heron. No doubt a shout out for Kate Herron.
Oh, yes.
Director of season 1 and the first notable person we ever got on this podcast as a guest. So
yeah, shout out to Kate. Also, I gotta say, shout out to the directors of Loki this season. I find like the visuals are pretty damn good.
Yeah. And I think that like the stuff, even though I didn't need as much of the chases that they had, it was really nice that there was a chase that was clearly on a real set. And I know I hammer that drum, but like I want folks to notice it. I want when folks like, why does Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania look so bad? Think about why this looks good. It's one's real, one not.
Exactly. But Jake, do you have any more plugs besides that?
No, good? I don't. I'm employed once again, which is nice. Not because of The Walking Dead, but so I'm less stressed about that.
Oh man, you can follow me on Twitter or what remains of Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show on all platforms at MC University Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Earlier this week, did a special NBA episode for the NBA season with Tyus Duncan. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. Patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you could get our bonus content. We do have some bonus content. We're about to really like ramp up recording to get these things in through the end of the month. Subscriber mailbag, a good beef, and also Fate of the Furious. So that should be a lot of fun to do very soon. Very excited. So appreciate everybody for supporting. Make sure you 5-star review the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all of those things. For Leah and Jake, I am Anthony Canton III. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.